much for checking us out here at Harvest Online. We're so glad that wherever and whenever you're watching, you made us a part of your day. If you would, click that subscribe button right there. And if you'd go over to Instagram and Facebook, like and subscribe to those pages as well. We would be very grateful for you to do that. Harvest Church exists so that all people may know Jesus and grow with Him. And we're traveling through the Psalms of Ascent. And today we're in Psalm 129. And one of the reasons that we call this the Psalms of Ascent is because these are the Psalms that would be recited, sung as the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, would travel to Jerusalem for the various feasts of the year. And so that's why they're called the Ascent, because Jerusalem was in the hills and the rest of Israel was kind of more on a plain. And so they travel up into the holy city of Jerusalem. So there's a quote from a Rocky movie that I think is really good for this sermon, and it's this. Rocky is saying, you, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. He's really talking about perseverance, the ability to persevere through various circumstances. And I think I like this definition of perseverance. It's just bounce back ability. That's it. It's just the ability to take a punch and bounce back. It's the ability to take a thing and bounce back. It's just that ability to bounce back from almost any and everything that you encounter. And I think about basketball. I grew up playing basketball. I still love to play basketball today. And one thing that's true about basketball is no matter how hard you dribble the ball, no matter how many times you dribble the ball, that ball is going to bounce back at you. And that's what perseverance is like. No matter if you hit the floor, if you hit asphalt, if you hit concrete, whatever, that ball is going to bounce back. And no matter what comes at you, no matter what gets in your way, you're going to be able to bounce back, right? And so we're not surprised when a basketball bounces back. We expect the basketball to bounce back. And so the question would be, are you surprised if you bounce back, or are you surprised that you don't bounce back from circumstances and situations? Because when we read this psalm, we're going to talk about this idea that the things coming against David didn't really deter him. He was able to overcome them and kept moving. And if you know anything about David's life, he had a lot of stuff coming at him. And so that's why kind of the bottom line up front today is perseverance isn't inherited. Perseverance is developed. And what that means is that you learn perseverance over and over and over and over and over a time of your life as you go through various trying circumstances, and you're able to bounce back from them. So perseverance isn't inherited. Perseverance is developed. Psalm 129. Let's read the whole thing together, and then we'll kind of walk through it from there. Greatly have they afflicted me from my youth. So here's David saying, greatly have they afflicted me from my youth. Now let Israel say, greatly they have afflicted me from my youth. They have not prevailed against me. So even though there's been affliction from his youth, they haven't prevailed against him. The plowers plowed upon my back. They made their long furrows. The Lord is righteous. He has cut the cords of the wicked. May all who hate Zion be put to shame and turn backward. Let them be like the grass on the housetops, which withers before it grows up, with which the reaper does not fill his hand, nor the binder of sheaves his arms, nor do those who pass by say, the blessing of the Lord be upon you. We bless you in the name of the Lord. And so when you get back, kind of get knocked down, the thing is to bounce back. And so this psalm is just kind of about this idea. If you think about David and you think about the nation of Israel, they both were a person and a nation that had to bounce back consistently. David had various trials and tribulations through his life that he had to bounce back from, and the nation of Israel the same way, right? They were in slavery, then freed, wandered around in the wilderness, had the promised land, lost the promised land, got the promised land. So there's this idea of always developing this perseverance. And so we have to bounce back because perseverance isn't inherited, it is developed. So let's talk a little bit about some things about perseverance. And then we'll kind of end it with how our model for perseverance is actually in the person of Jesus. And so perseverance does not mean perfection. That's the first thing. These Psalms are not sung by perfect people. David nor the people of Israel. They're not sung by perfect people. Everyone makes mistakes, including heroes of the faith. Perseverance does not mean perfection. In fact, for most of us, we've had to bounce back from our own mistakes. Like we've made mistakes that have put us into situations that we've had to bounce back from. Perseverance is the ability to bounce back and to keep going despite mistakes we make or setbacks we experience. One of the characteristics of a life of deep faith is a life of perseverance. If you've ever sat down and talked to someone who has a life of deep faith, if you've ever sat down and talked to someone who's lived a life following Jesus, and maybe in their former years, and they have time to reflect, one of the things you're going to realize is that these are people that are able to bounce back. They can persevere because every single one of us in our life experiences setbacks. We experience mistakes. We experience difficult things. The reason why is because our faith is centers and absorbs our lives, right? That's it. That our faith does that. And so these moments where we come to these crossroads, we lean on our faith in order to get us through them, probably more so than we do day in and day out, right? So our faith is actually what helps us persevere. Why? Because we care about God, we care about the ways of His kingdom, we care about morality, and we care about justice and righteousness. So our perseverance is deeply rooted in our imperfection because we know the only way through those imperfections is to truly become more like Christ. And if you read Scripture, specifically James, these trials and tribulations that we go through are actually meant to make us more like Christ. We had a friend of ours in Colorado. Her name was Rachel, and we are still friends with her. We don't talk to her as much. We're still friends with her and her 5 kids. And Rachel's such an example of perseverance because she went through some really difficult times with her marriage. She went through some difficult financial times. She didn't know what she was going to do. Was she going to stay in Colorado? Was she going to leave? What was going on? But one of the things that I loved about Rachel is she had a saying, and this is probably a saying you've heard, is that I'm going to take lemons and make them lemonade, right? So when life gives me a lemon and it's sour and it's bitter, I'm actually going to figure out a way to make it lemonade. And Rachel's one of those ladies that is just a fighter, and she's amazing to see how in some times of crisis that were very personal to her and that my family was really involved in personally with her, how she was really to lean back on her faith in the Lord to guide her, and she was able to persevere and bounce back from several difficult circumstances. And now she's in a great place. She's thriving. She's doing well. And so, but she wasn't perfect. She didn't live a perfect life. She didn't make 100% right decisions, right? She would tell you that. And so when we think about perseverance, it doesn't mean perfection. It just means that in those critical moments, we lean back on our faith and say, God, get me through it and become more like Christ, right? So when you get knocked down, you got to bounce back because perseverance is not inherited. You don't just get born with it. It's actually developed. The second thing is that perseverance is not a resignation, meaning perseverance does not resign with just putting up with the way things are, right? Or staying in the same old rut, right? It's not an endurance or a desperate hanging on, white-knuckling your way through life. Perseverance is actually moving, and I like this, from strength to strength. Meaning it is allowing you just to bounce back to strengthen you from what you will bounce back from in the future. One of my favorite quotes is, the reward for overcoming your last challenge is your next challenge. Meaning that you can overcome a challenge today. I promise you, a challenge is going to be waiting on you the next time. And so it's this perseverance is moving from strength to strength, allowing the past challenge to strengthen you, give you the strength for the future challenge. And so when you think about it, perseverance is not just a resignation of like how things are or being content with the way the world is. It's actually moving forward in the face of adversity, right? Because when we get knocked down, we got to bounce back. And one of the best models for this is Jesus. He sticks with us, right? Jesus sticks with us. He perseveres with us through all things. The Lord is righteous and he has cut the cords of the wicked. That's verse 4 of this psalm. One of the most unintended consequences of perseverance is the dependence we find on the Lord for our personal relationship with him. It's kind of like when we go through these difficult times, leaning on our faith, right, is one of those things that we have dependence and we find it in the Lord. And we learn that he's always there for us. We learn that he sticks to his relationship. We learn that he's faithful. We learn that he's true. That's what we learn about him. And so what's great about having to go through difficult times is that we begin to learn, not just know, but learn and internalize the attributes of God that help us through difficult times. And it establishes and cements our personal relationship with Jesus, because now we say, Jesus was this for me when this happened. Jesus was this for me when this happened. So Jesus will be that for me in the future. God has an uncommon steadiness to him, right? Elections come and go, dynasties rise and fall, whole nations fall, wars are fought, famine happens, all kinds of things happen in the world, but God just remains steady. He remains steadfast. He remains faithful, right? He always, and he's there to help us bounce back. He's like our trampoline, right? Like if you ever been on a trampoline, like you bounce on the trampoline, you're going to bounce back, right? That God's like our trampoline, right? If we put our trust in him, if we fear him, if we walk in his ways, he's like our trampoline. He's faithful to be there and help us bounce back from whatever we go through. And so our ability to bounce back and persevere act as a testimony of God's ability to be faithful in and out of all circumstances. And it begins to become a testimony that encourages other people that even when you're in a difficult situation, God can help you bounce back. So this psalm is about perseverance. It's about the perseverance of David. It's about the perseverance of the nation of Israel. And it teaches us that perseverance isn't inherited, but it's developed. But that we also have a central person that models perseverance and models faithfulness to us and helps us bounce back. And that is the Lord, who sticks with us all of the time. And he's like our spiritual trampoline. He helps us bounce back. So here's kind of the hopefully encouraging, motivational message for you today. When you get knocked down, you got to bounce back. Because perseverance isn't inherited. Perseverance is developed over time. God bless you.